So Tom, here we are at the chipping green. Now, I want people to spend, if they have an hour to work here, 50% of their time over here. That's 30 minutes. The reason for that is that quite often people tell me, you know, when they come home from the golf course and they say, when they come out here to practice, they say, oh, my putting killed me today. And I asked them a little more and a little more, and as it turns out, what was happening was they weren't making putts outside, let's say, 6 feet. They weren't making 10-footers all day. But what the average golfer doesn't realize is that most golf professionals only make 50% of their 6-footers. Outside of that, their percentages get even lower. So if a golf professional is only making 50% of their 6-footers, that means the average amateur is probably only making, what, 25% of their 6-footers? So in my opinion, it really wasn't their putting, their 10-footers that they missed that were the problem. I don't expect them to make them anyway. It was the fact that they were, when they missed a green, what was happening was they weren't putting their chip close enough, let's say inside 6 feet, to give themselves a good chance at making that putt. So if people realize that the most important thing in golf is getting their chip shots close, then I think that it would put less pressure on their putting and definitely less pressure on their long game. So what we've done here was set clubs up, because remember, when we chip, or when we hit, or when we putt, we always practice with a purpose. You don't just sit here and hit shots blindly. What you actually do is you put pressure on yourself. We put tees around the hole to show a circle. We put clubs on the ground to make sure your alignment's okay. And we have to practice with a purpose. Right. So go ahead and hit a couple chips. The ball goes in the middle of your feet. And I noticed that with these clubs on the ground, what we've done here, in that hole, is we have you aligning yourself properly. Now, after, let's say, you get a feel for the green, then what I want you to do is I want you to start challenging yourself. It's one thing to sit here and hit that ball close on the practice range, but to go on a golf course when there's some kind of pressure, it's a different story. All of a sudden then, your hands tense up, your forearms tense up, your little muscles get involved, your brain starts going crazy with the pressure. So what you have to do is you have to also practice pressure. So what I've done is I've set a semicircle of tees on that green surrounding the hole about 3 feet. And what I would say to you is, Tom, you're not allowed to leave this green until you put, let's set a goal for you, 5 out of 10 in that circle. Now, to some people, the circle may need to be a little bit bigger because, let's say, they're beginners. You're very advanced. You've been playing for how long now?
You don't want to know.
But some people need the circle to be smaller. Some people would rather have the circle smaller and give themselves, let's say, 3 out of 10 to get in the circle, because they find that more challenging. You know yourself better than most people know you, so you can either make the circle bigger and get more shots in, or you can make the circle smaller, get less shots in as a goal. But the purpose is to not let yourself leave until you've achieved your goal. And believe me, if you've made 4 out of 9 and you're on your last ball and you know that you're not leaving that green until you get that last one in, all of a sudden that pressure's there and you're simulating what it feels like on a golf course.
When I was a junior, Kelly, I did this very same thing, only I was a little tougher on myself. I wouldn't go home. I lived right near the course, and I wouldn't go home until I could make 4 out of 5.
Wow.
In the hole.
Wow. In the hole?
Yes.
From chipping?
Yes.
Wow.
From this distance.
Which is why, precisely, today, you're that great chipper that you are and that great short game player. I mean, I know, Tom, we play together. You don't leave yourself when you're off the green with much more than a 3-foot putt.
Well, that's about all I can make with the putt.
Go ahead and hit one more shot before we go over to the putting green. Good shot. All right, so now you just made your 9th out of 10 shot in the hole. And we've been here for a half an hour, so we're 45 minutes into our practice session. Let's go over to the putting green and do some putting.
Okay.
So Tom, here we are on the putting green. And what we do when we first get to the putting green is we try to get a feel for distance. And the best way to get a feel is through your eyes. So what I want you to do here is to pick out, we've got, let's say, a 20-foot putt here, and I want you just to hit a couple putts while watching the hole. Instead of watching the ball, let your eyes tell you how hard to hit it, and go ahead and stroke the ball with your eyes on the hole.
Okay.
Good putt. So you've got a great feel. Now, a couple of minutes after you've gotten done doing this, what we're going to do is we're going to just work on your swing, your stroke, for just a couple minutes. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to put 2 clubs down, aiming at your target, and let's just make sure that your stroke is pretty good for the day. If you bring that club back incorrectly, what you're going to do is you're going to hit one of those strokes. So take a couple putts working on that. Great job.
Nope.
Very good. All right, so let's say now it's 5 minutes has elapsed. You've checked your stroke. You're seeing that your stroke is very solid. Then what you'd want to do is you'd want to start working on your uphill putts, your lag putts, your downhill putts. And one thing I did when I was a junior, which was actually, believe it or not, like 28 years ago, I started playing when I was 5, is I wouldn't leave every day until I had this one putt at the country club. It was a downhill putt. It was very slippery, and I set up from 10 feet, and I wouldn't leave until I made 50 putts in a row, believe it or not. Yeah, well, you know, and sometimes I remember my mom and dad would pick me up and they'd have to put the headlights on in the car so that I could still see what I was doing.
Well, we did one better than that. We had, in the dark, we used the handkerchief in the hole.
Oh, so you could see the hole?
When you made the putt, the white handkerchief disappeared.
Oh my gosh. Golfers are insane
Crazy.
people, aren't they?
Have to be crazy.
All right, so it's an hour indoor practice session. We've worked 25% of the time, or 15 minutes on our long game. We've worked 50% or 30 minutes on our chipping, which is the short game. We've worked on 15 minutes, which is 25% of putting. And we put in a good hard hour. We've done it appropriately. We've gotten our percentages down. We've worked on and we've weighted this practice session the way it should be. And I think we're ready to go to the golf course. Should we go play 18?
Let's go.
All right.
Be strong. I'm finding it hard to resist. So show